Motivation. I'm motivated. But what do you do when motivation is not enough? You rely on your work ethic. You rely on your discipline. That's Minetality. Now let's get it. Hi, this is Julian Peters with Minetality Podcast. Welcome back to another episode. Today I have I call her my shero, Miss Brittney Dayne, IFBB Pro bikini competitor, Olympian, doctor, HBCU grad. She's just the prototypical shero, is what I like to say.
Well, thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Rob, so how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I cannot complain at all. How about yourself?
I'm okay. It's cold where we're at. It's freezing.
Yes.
So where y'all are at? Oh, it is.
Yeah, so I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we hadn't gotten anything crazy like Texas, but it has been like ridiculously cold. But then earlier this week, it hit like 70 degrees.
Oh,
so,
negative.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the end of the world is coming at some point, but it is what it is.
It was -6 where I was at. I'm in Missouri.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, man. Bundle up, please.
Right.
Or just don't leave the house.
I don't, unless I go to the gym. All right. So like I told y'all, for those listening, for those watching, this is Brittney Dayne, IFBB Bikini Pro, did the Olympia last year. We were all very excited to see that. She's actually one of my teammates as well with Ryan Hinton and Team Legacy. So my first question is, can I talk about, do you have like an athletic background? What was your lead into bodybuilding and competing?
Yeah, so for me, it's a little different. I was actually a classically trained ballerina. Growing up, I did it for like 18 years. I did the competitive dance as well. So with the different genres of dance, as far as like modern or lyrical or jazz, tap, all of it. But my true foundation was with the classical ballet. So I did that all, throughout my childhood and high school. And then in college, I continued to dance. I did the 6-year pharmacy program. So I danced those first 4 years until the program was just like too much for me to, try to balance both. I remained pretty active into my, early adulthood years. And graduated. I wasn't really doing much physically after I graduated just because I was trying to get adjusted to being an adult and, being in the work world. But eventually it was actually when I started dating Cameron, who he was kind of the influence to like get me back in the gym and actually start like building myself. I was always very like tall, long and lean, just naturally. And so, he kind of encouraged me to like, not that he felt like I needed it, but that's when we kind of was like, let's start building a little bit of curves here and there. So that's how I got into it.
Okay. Shout out to Cam. He's another one. I call these two the Great Danes, by the way, y'all. So, Graham, which I will link all this stuff under the podcast, so people can follow. But they travel, vacation everywhere. Matter of fact, what's your favorite spot that you've been to so far?
Ooh, favorite spot. Oh, for sure. Pemba Island. So it is off the coast of East Africa.
Oh, okay.
And like we went to this resort that literally has a room that's underwater. It's like in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
And we were able to like sleep underwater, and it was so dope. So that
underwater.
Was sure. Underwater. Like literally they take you out on a boat to like this little island that's your own that has your room attached to it, but you climb down and it goes underwater. Literally the whole room is set underwater. It's so dope.
Sounds like a place I'm gonna have to go.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Check it out.
So you said you were dancing, you did that for your first year, 4 years of college. You're in the pharmacy program. Was that balance hard? Do you think that going through, dancing in school has kind of helped with fitness, with health preps and things like that?
Yeah. So basically, well, just with ballet in general, like there is a different level of discipline that you have to be able to incorporate into your life just overall. Not only just with like learning the technique of ballet and everything, but it's so strenuous. Like there is no like, oh, I just go take a couple classes every week. Like, no, I was a part of the junior company where, we did the Nutcracker and a whole bunch of other like recitals and stuff. And like I said, I also did the competitive dance. So I really feel like my foundation as a dancer is what helped to really establish like the discipline that I needed just in life in general, right? And so by the time I got to college, you know, I had never been that student that just went to school, came home, and like did homework. Like I've always just like been involved with extracurriculars. So in college, like it was no different for me. I didn't want to just go to class. Like I needed to like continue to just kind of balance out my mindset. So yeah, like being able to balance the two for those first 4 years of the 6-year program was not easy. Because I also pledged Delta, like I did the absolute most in college, right?
Right.
So it was always like this balancing act that I had to always figure out. And it's what I signed up for. Being in such a strenuous program like pharmacy, it's just not easy. But again, it's what I signed up for, is what I was always used to as far as just going to school and then having something after school that I also need to focus on and excel in. So finding that balance wasn't easy, but at the same time, like I didn't know life any other way at that point. Now, once I got to my 5th year of pharmacy school, like it's like no joke at that point, you know, like we getting a whole doctorate degree. So we need to like, you know, allow this to be the priority. So that's when I finally put it aside and just went to school. But even then, like it was just 2 years of that, because as soon as I graduated, you know, like I said, I wasn't doing anything too strenuous. I would find a ballet class here or there or a dance class or something just to kind of keep myself moving. But no, like that balance, it's not possible if you can't like set your mind to understand that, okay, when I'm doing, you know, schoolwork, this is where my mind is at, and once it's time to turn that off, this is where my mind is at. You know, it's not easy, but it's totally necessary if you really want to excel in different things in life.
So you still apply that same principle to what you're doing now every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, trying to shoot for Olympia and competing and all of that stuff, even just trying to get the pro card, like that also requires obviously, you know, a different level of discipline.
Right.
And if you're also going to be involved with your career, whether that's as like a trainer or a pharmacist, you know, like you have to be able to not necessarily just always compartmentalize, but to an extent, yes, like when I'm here, this is what I'm doing. And now it's time to turn that off and come here. So yeah, just finding the balance and understanding the discipline, and also being willing to make the sacrifices that are necessary. Like we want to believe that we can have it all. And I believe that we can, but not all at the same time. You know, like
Right.
timing of everything, you know, you have chapters in life. So find that discipline to make sure that you can excel when you're here. Okay, do that. And when that chapter closes, then okay, cool. Apply that same discipline to the next challenge or whatever it's going to be for you.
So let me ask this, since we're kind of going into the fitness part of the conversation. Um, how important is your significant other in the process of I can't even say the word, not gonna try, I'm gonna lose my mouth. So of being able to separate those things and have these different hats and these different things that you're putting into place. And like you said, when I'm here, I'm here. When I'm not, I'm not. And I know Cam is a really supportive guy and help. So how significant is that?
Yes. So, you know, I've had this conversation a couple times and people have different perspectives of it. So my perspective obviously is molded by my experience. Like you said, Cameron is just a very supportive man. And I don't think it's possible that I would have been able to come this far without his support. That is real talk. Like, I don't care how driven somebody is, when you're involved with like bodybuilding, which is something that you're taking your body to an extreme, okay? It's not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. It is an extreme. So like, regardless of how driven I am or how much I really wanted it, if I didn't have him like really helping to keep me sane and stable throughout it all, I don't think it would have been possible. So I think the biggest thing about it is just making sure that you're communicating like effectively with your partner. Luckily Cam did compete, you know, when we were first like shooting for the pro card and everything. So he had his own personal experience to understand what I was going through, why I felt the way that I felt when I would have a random attitude because I was just hungry as hell, you know, like he would understand that. So there was that patience and that grace that was just automatically there. Thank God, right?
Right.
But then when it was time to like really take it to the next level, you know, he decided to kind of scale back from his own personal goals and allow me to be the priority, which was very, very selfless. That he was willing to kind of sacrifice something that he wanted to achieve as well so that he could see me succeed. That was huge. And a part of me understanding his mindset and the fact that he was willing to do that was like a driving factor for me to make sure that I didn't mess up or that I didn't give up, you know, because I knew that he was sacrificing. Like his support that he was giving me was his sacrifice, you know, so that he could just be there for me and make sure that I'm good and I have what I need, you know, coming with me to every single competition, you know, making sure that I'm fed. Like if I don't feel like, you know, cooking or whatever, he'll make sure that I still have my meals. All of that is huge. But again, like you still have to communicate. Although he understood a lot, that communication is so important. So like, even if I'm not in the mood to have this conversation, I know that it's a priority. Like I have to let him know what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, where I'm at, you know, so that he can kind of navigate around that and with it at the same time. So yeah, like the support is necessary. It is really necessary, especially when you're trying to go to the top of whatever it is that you're doing.
Right. And I think what's interesting, something that you just said, is when you're talking about sacrifice, I think people hear the word sacrifice and they don't realize that that's almost subjective.
Yeah.
It's for each relationship. Like you said, his sacrifice was just being there and supporting
Mm-hmm.
you. That might be different in my marriage, which is
Yeah.
where, like you said, the communication comes into play. My wife, we moved to Missouri so she could start chiropractic school. We're literally newly married, not married a year, packed all our stuff, moved to a different state, new careers for both of us. This was a whole new thing. So for me, the sacrifice wasn't necessarily the sacrifice was more difficult for me because I was the competitor and she was the one supporting me when we were together when we first started. And then that all kind of switched around where I don't have the help as far as cooking because she's studying 60 hours a week. So then I took that role. It was a small switch and it wasn't that hard, but like even one of the things I would try to do is when she had finals week, I'm going to go get a whole bunch of snacks for you. That's just me showing that I'm thinking about you. You don't have to leave this room. You can study all the time. But like you said, just little small things like that, I felt helped push her, just like when she did that for me, her cooking me egg whites in the morning, which just felt like, oh my gosh, she really cares. I can keep going. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah, it's
so
huge. It makes a big difference for sure.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So with bikini competing, being a competitor, what was your journey like? Was it just success, success, success? Did you hit some pitfalls? Explain that, because a lot of people, I think, and I talked about this with Ryan, but a lot of people see surface level. You are a prime example of that. You're a beautiful woman, you're a doctor, you're a bikini pro, you're an Olympian, and everybody's like, I see that and I want it. But nobody gets to hear the behind the scenes or the journey that it took to become the bikini pro and the Olympian. So what was that like?
Yeah, so it was not, none of it has been easy. Okay. I was not one of those people that like did their first NPC show, qualified for nationals, and then got the pro card. Like, not even close. I wanted to
Right,
be, clearly. I mean,
right,
you see it happen, you know, every now and then. But no, for me, we had been trying very consistently for about almost 3 years before we had even met Ryan, to get the pro card.
right.
We had done all the shows and we were committed to whatever it took, right? So I did fairly well. Like I placed top 5 at like national shows pretty consistently. And I did have that. I'm not gonna say I felt entitled to a pro card, but you do get a sense of like, oh yeah, yeah, this is coming, this is mine, like this is definitely my path, because again, I had been in top 5 plenty of times, right?
Right, right, most
And
definitely.
so after a while, like as exciting as that is, you get to a point where it's like, if I'm still getting, you know, top 5, not that first or second place in order to get the pro card, now you don't even like appreciate the win of top 5, right? So I did eventually get to a point where I was like, maybe this isn't for me. You know, the last show that I did before I met Ryan, I actually like 16th. Okay. I didn't place.
Right.
And, it was very, very humbling because I'm like, wait, what is going on? And then we met Ryan, and, I'm telling you, Ryan, it's just something about him. He can just spark something in anybody to make them like, just kind of reset and then remember who the hell you are. Like, it's just something about him, right? And so sure enough, I met Ryan, long story short, and I got my pro card the very first show we did together.
Wow.
Which was
So what
great.
show was that?
That was Junior USA's in 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
in 2 years, you were Olympian.
So yes and no, right? So after I got the pro card, we did like 3 pro shows. I did Toronto Pro as my debut. I got 6th place there. I did what was it, Omaha Pro. I got 4th place. So that was when, points and everything. I got
Yeah, I
top 5.
remember
I
that.
got points.
Yeah.
Yes, it was so exciting. But anyway, so a little time went by. We did a few shows, and at that point, I think I was like 32 going on 33, if that makes sense. Yeah, whatever, 33. Yeah. And Cam and I had been married for about 2 years at that point. I was also in aesthetic school, which is a whole other thing because I started a skincare line. But I went to aesthetic school, and I was doing that while I was getting the pro card and doing those few pro shows. So again, that balance, like I'm trying to do everything, right?
Right.
That balance and the sacrifices necessary. It was starting to take a toll on me. And so we're both looking at each other like, hey, we've accomplished a lot and we still have a whole lot of other things ahead of us. Like, maybe let's take a little time away from the stage. We both felt like we were ready for parenthood at that time. So it was like, all right, let's make a baby. Why not? I think we're ready. We're excited. We're both, wanting this. So I stepped away from the stage. And I did not come back due to that whole journey of us trying to get pregnant, which is a whole other story as well. But so from like summer of 2018, that's when I took my break, and then I didn't come back until the beginning of 2020. So yeah, so this last season of being back is when I was able to, bust my tail. Okay, I did all the shows
Yeah.
so that I could qualify for Olympia. So yeah,
I
took about a year. Yeah.
Actually, because I text Ryan and I was like, oh, Brittney made it. And he was like, well, we got to wait because it's one more show. And there's like a girl that she's fighting points with that can move. So it was like, I think I messaged Cam too. I'm like, she made it. He's like, well, we're almost there. I'm like, oh my God. So it was great. I felt excited when you made it. I'm like, yes, you got it. Oh, yeah, that was all you and Jazz. Both of y'all, I felt like, fighting for that. So with the competing, and you mentioned like the shows, one of the things about you mentioned is you're tall.
Yes.
So every show that I've seen or every picture that I see, you stand out from most of the girls because you are so tall. Is that an advantage, you think, to you, or is that a disadvantage when you're competing against other girls,
Right. So, this is a subjective sport. All right. So some judges may love my long limbs. Some may look at me and say, you just look skinny. And that typically is what happens. Like, I have a very decent amount of muscle for bikini. However, because I'm standing next to these girls who are averaging like 5'5", 5'6", and I'm 5'9". So I might actually have the same amount of muscle. However, mine are like elongated and stretched. So now I don't have that same density that they have that gives them that fuller look that they really want to see in bikini.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, I think that's a bit of a disadvantage. And like, I've even had judges tell me like, yeah, we understand it is what it is. You're going to have to work a little bit harder than everybody else so that you can achieve that look. Because unfortunately, like, yes, you look amazing when you're standing by yourself, but this is a game of comparisons. So, that's what they were telling me basically this entire season. And unfortunately, as the season goes on, you keep competing, you keep dieting down, you're just getting smaller and smaller. So that's another story as well. By the time I hit the Olympia stage, I was itty bitty, itty bitty. But I made it to the stage, so whatever.
Yeah, you made it. That's all that matters.
Yes.
Physique is the same way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, just bodybuilding in general, the taller people are just going to struggle
Yep.
because you got midgets like me, 5'7", that like we just look bigger. And
Yep.
so like even when Raymond won the men's physique a couple years ago was shocking to me. I never saw that coming because he's like 6'1",
Yeah.
6'2". The amount of muscle you have to put on to be able to stand up there because you are seen. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
walk out, there's a bunch of guys that are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", and then 6'1". I'm looking at you first. Like that's just
Yep.
how it is. So
Yep.
yeah, I wondered how that applied to bikini athletes. I've never gotten to ask a taller
Mm-hmm.
athlete. So
Yep.
that's
Yep. I want to say I may be like the tallest Olympian like ever.
yeah. And
I
the
don't
first
see, huh?
doctor, black
Oh
doctor,
yeah.
appeared at
Yeah.
the Olympian.
First black doctor. Yeah. That was something. Actually, somebody else pointed out to me.
Right.
And you know, I mean, it's an honor for sure just to know that like
Edged in history. Like
yeah,
about
yeah, for
that. Like
real. And then also too, it's like, you know, a lot of people do feel like, you know, when we're trying to achieve these huge things, specifically in bodybuilding, like you can't really do too much outside of
mhm.
competing or being a trainer or, you know, like your life is in the gym. There is this mindset of like that limitation being a reality, and it's not. It's really not. It's about, again, understanding how to find that balance, that discipline, and being okay with the sacrifices that you're gonna have to make in order to, you know, make this happen.
And I think that's what every goal that you set though. Like if
Oh
I
yeah,
wanted to be, I work, if I work and I wanted to be the best employee at my job that I'm at, it's gonna cause some sacrifice. That's just what it is.
yep.
So yeah, I agree. And actually I had to grow into that as well because I did for the longest think that I just had to be, I lack conscientiousness. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I have to be here and I don't see outside of here. And I had a professor tell me that actually. He's
Wow.
like, when you're focused, you're great. He's like, the problem is you don't see anything outside of here. So
Yeah.
I imagine, have you seen the movie Biker Boys? Do you remember that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's basically this young kid that they do street racing for bikes. He's trying to take the mantle from the king. And they showed that every time before the king races, he has this like tunnel that like
Uh,
drags out and everybody else doesn't have it. Well, his
mhm.
last race against the kid, because he found out like the kid is his son, he has that tunnel, but there's pictures of like family members that start popping up. And
Oh
so
wow.
he loses that focus, but the kid now has it and he beats him. He's the first guy to beat him.
Ah,
So that's
oh,
what I think about. Like
mhm.
the one track mind is great for bodybuilding if you want to do it. I just don't know how realistic it is when you have a family, a job, and a life. Because let's
Yeah.
face it, most of us aren't making top dollars from bodybuilding. This is a passion and this is a love. You
Yeah.
got to be top 10 in the world possibly to really make a living off of it unless you're doing the influencer thing. So
Right.
it's interesting that you bring that up because I think a lot of people, what you've done, pharmacy, the skincare line, we'll talk about that, your wife, all the stuff you've been through, and you still stay focused is something that I felt like a lot of people needed to hear because there's a lot of excuses they go around.
True indeed. True indeed. And I'll say one thing that I did have to factor in, right, is in this particular year of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
COVID, right? So there weren't too many distractions, you know, that I had to say no to. There were
Right.
so many times like I would start to kind of resent bodybuilding and my decision to compete because I would have to miss out on so many memories, right? I don't like that. I'm the type of person who I value being able to share experiences with other people, even if that's just a matter of sitting down and having a meal together. Like that type of intimacy is what I live for. I love it. And so the fact that, you know, this is something that I had to sacrifice in order to compete, it didn't always sit well with me, but I also knew that like this is temporary, right? So
Right.
just need to do for the time that you need to do it. But as far as COVID, like everybody was shut down, you know, like I didn't have to say no to my homegirl's birthday dinner. I didn't have to say no to that because it wasn't
Right.
happening.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so it was a bit easier to, you know, just stay tunnel visioned, you know, and not have to worry about letting my friends down or me feeling like I'm not able to support them, you know, in certain ways. that this particular year was honestly ideal. Now granted, gyms and everything shut down, so there was those challenges, but what else am I going to do? Like, I mean,
Right.
yes, there's other work and stuff to do with the pharmacy and the skincare and all of that. But ultimately, when it comes down to this particular goal, I honestly felt like this was the easiest year for me to compete.
Oh my goodness. You know what's crazy is I'm happy you just said that, because I know plenty of people who think the complete opposite.
Complete opposite. Yep. Yep.
See it, and that's a perspective thing. That's an
Mhm.
outlook thing. And I mean, it's crazy because a lot of people acted like this was the worst year. And we're still going into this being the worst year.
Yeah.
Like, it's, even in my situation, and I give Ryan credit for this because he's been the one who's pushed me to start this. But I
Mhm.
started this during the times where there was really nothing to do. But I'm looking at myself, I'm like, you can make better use of your time. And
Yeah,
like you
man.
said, there's not distractions. Me and my wife don't really go out to eat like that anyway, but where we're going to go,
Right.
everything's shut down. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
said that. That's interesting. A lot of people don't look at it that way.
Yeah, yeah, and again, perspective. What I saw happening, especially when the shutdown and quarantine was first happening, was a decline in a lot of people's mental health, a lot. And I, so for me, I had experienced my own bout with mental health the year prior, and I wanted to compete again. One of the reasons I wanted to get back on stage was to give me that focus and that discipline again, so I could stop like dwelling on the things that weren't working out for me, right? And kind of just pull me out of that hole. So what I saw happening, so many people were just kind of drowning because they didn't have anything to do. And ultimately, it's like, hey, at this point, this is where you get creative and innovative and do what you need to do, because time is still moving. Like, life is actually still happening. It seems like a shutdown, but no, like the time that you're wasting by being upset about the fact that you can't do what you thought you were going to do for 2020, you're not getting that time back. So now it's time to adjust. It's time to reassess, reevaluate the things that you have going on in your life, and see what purpose you can pull from that. That's why, for me in the skincare line, same thing. Like, I dropped that thing in the middle of a pandemic and was like, I don't really know exactly how this is going to work out. Are people going to buy the products? I know people are losing their jobs and stuff. I get that. But at the same time, this is what helped me to maintain my own sanity, to understand that regardless of what's happening in the world outside of us, there's still a lot of purpose within me. So I'm going to use this time. I'm going to use this time to just figure it out.
Right. Okay. I love it. I love it. So, kind of to switch areas, I see the shirt that you have on. So
Yes.
FAMU pharmacy grad, HBCU grad.
Mhm.
I wanted Miss Dayne to talk a little bit about her experience with HBCU. I personally never went to one,
It's too
but
bad.
I think that's a decision that I actually regret.
Oh,
It's crazy because I've already talked to my wife, and we're going to, when we have kids, encourage them to go the HBCU route.
yeah.
Because I can imagine what it feels like to be able to look around and see people that look like me. And I've never had a black professor or
Oh,
teacher.
wow, man.
Yeah. So that type of experience I missed out on. And I think especially for men, being able to see a black man that's a professor or something could be really have a really big impact. So I just wanted you to talk about, your experience for the HBCU, some of the benefits that you got out of it, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, so for me, it was very important for me to go to an HBCU. Growing up, however, I went to nothing but predominantly white schools. Um, and, obviously that wasn't my choice. Like, my parents put me where they put me. So
Right.
that's fine. And I was still able to get a nice foundation of education or whatever. But for me, I wanted the Black experience because of the fact that, I mean, I'm always going to be a minority. Like, when these 4 to 6 years are over, like, the world around me is never, it's just not going to be the majority of me anymore. Right. So I'm like, let me just take in this experience while I can, where I can see just these beautiful Black specimens of people, you know, just all around me, and be influenced by just the mindset that a lot of them had. They're coming from completely different places in the world, you know, and they're bringing in different perspective. I'll never forget my freshman year. Somebody asked me the question. It was such a simple question, but it blew my mind. They said, are your parents still married?" And in my mind, I'm like, well, yeah, they're my parents. Duh, they're married, right?
Right.
But I came up, you know, with both of my parents in the house,
Right.
and the majority of my friends that I grew up with as well. Like that wasn't it wasn't divorce was not normal.
Mm.
Okay, growing up. But when you come into, and unfortunately, a lot of, you know, Black students, that's what they have experienced. And so it just, even something like that, something so simple made me realize like, wow, I am now being, you know, placed into a world with just very different mentalities and mindsets and experiences that people have grown up with. So that was eye-opening. Something as simple as that, you know, was
Right.
like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
I'm in a different world now. I'm in a different world now. And it's time to really like open my eyes to understand what else is out there. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and my parents are from Memphis, Tennessee. They went to school in Memphis, Tennessee. You know, their siblings went to, you know, like all we knew was Memphis. So finally going off to a school where everybody, well, not everybody, majority of folks look like me, and being able to just kind of learn from their experiences and hear their stories and stuff, just for one, gave me another sense of just pride for being Black, to be honest. Because again, I only knew my experience, which was pretty fortunate, just to be honest.
Right.
Now, the experience of actually just being there in school and learning alongside these people, and you know, just the culture of all of it. The most beautiful thing ever. So I went to the pharmacy program at FAMU. And one thing I know for a fact, I would have never gotten at any other school, or at least not any other non-HBCU, before every single test. Now it's pharmacy school. Like we are 18, 19, 20 years old trying to get a doctorate. So
Right.
there's no undergrad. You know, we come in as freshmen straight out of mom and daddy's house to going through a doctorate program. So it's very, very challenging.
Right.
Okay. Before every single test, we would literally, and it would be at least, you know, 200 of us, we would circle up, hold hands, and pray together,
Oh wow.
praying over each other that we can do well, that we can all continue to excel and succeed and push through and matriculate through this program together. I just know for a fact that I would not have gotten that in any other type of school. It's just, it's not.
Private Christian college, and we didn't do that.
Oh, so exactly. But
So,
this is like the majority of us, this is our foundation, you know, prayer, faith, you know, and supporting each other, wanting to see people that look like me also succeed. I want to see you win. When you win, I win. We're in this together, you know. So even something like that, again, HBCU, it's just very, very different. Simply because I think we all understand when we leave this place, the struggle of simply just being Black in America is going to hit us all over again. So just, you better take it in as much as you can while you're here. You know, it is a bit of a bubble for sure. And if you talk to anybody that went to an HBCU, they go hard, okay, for their school.
right.
Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like the arguments that I've gotten in with my friends that went to like Howard or somewhere, and no, FAMU is the best one. And they're like, nah, HU, blah, blah, blah. You know?
Right. Right.
But it's just a sense of pride that we all have. And ultimately, there's like a mutual respect that we automatically have for each other, just knowing that you experience something that is out of this world, honestly. So yeah, just having, like you said, having those Black professors and seeing them doing amazing things within their field, and knowing that like I'm following in their footsteps, and like that could be me, you know, it's pretty incredible. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Right. So were you able to, as far as after college, because you do talk about that when you basically hit the real world, and you pledged as well, you pledged Delta, right? So
Mhm.
you were able to establish connections that were kind of help you business wise, or just in
Yeah.
anything outside of college after it happened?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I would say one of the most notables is here in Charlotte, one of my really good friends from pharmacy school. We actually both moved here to Charlotte after we graduated. And I want to say, I think he was like, he may have been like class president or something. He had some very good leadership role in our class or whatever. But he always had a dream of opening his own pharmacy, right? So now granted, my idea of that is like, we can't really do that. What do you mean open your own? Like we don't have the resources. We don't have, but I'm telling you, sorry, let me take that back. When I first entered FAMU, that's what I would have thought. Okay.
Right.
But the way that I was able to be groomed to understand what we are capable of, who we are, like it's limitless, right? So of course, by the time he said like, hey, I think I'm ready to open my own pharmacy, I'm like, yo, let's do it. I don't know what all goes into this, but guess what? We're going to figure it out because that's what we do.
Right.
So honestly, like being able to have that experience with him, I was able to invest in the pharmacy, Cameron and I both, and seeing other friends that he was able to pull together. So we had a couple other investors who also went to HBCUs. They were like, oh, you know what? This is definitely not an easy feat. So, but you know what? We're going to back you, going to be right there with you. Okay. So we're going to invest our hard-earned money into this as well to make this a reality. And sure enough, like, what it's been going on 6 years now that the pharmacy has been open. Oprah came to visit us last year. Yes, it was incredible. Like, just really,
You
yes,
saw my
like,
face, right?
yeah. But yeah, it's just the mindset that we have as far as supporting each other because you went to an HBCU, because again, that mutual respect is just automatic. It's incredible. Now, pledging, man, I have so many of my even line sisters and sorority sisters that are doing incredible things. One of my line sisters is the owner of Lip Bar, and that's been in Targets, and she actually just launched in Walmart's this week, like huge. And even with what I'm trying to do, like to know that I have that type of person in my circle, that I can call on and ask for assistance for what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm at the bottom right now, like we just launched in September. So, there's a huge learning curve for
Ordering, by
me.
the way, and I got a couple other people that are.
Ah, nice. I
Guy
appreciate
that
that.
actually did the podcast with last week, I was telling him about you, and he was like, "Oh, for real?" It's like it's hard to
Ah,
find Black products. I'm like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "So I
yeah,
linked his Instagram or link
yeah.
your Instagram for the business page to him." So yeah, I'll be
Ah,
ordering too.
thank you. That means, and see, that's what I'm saying. Like even just the word of mouth, and having that type of network. The folks that went to FAMU that know about me doing the skincare line, that know about the pharmacy and everything, they go so hard. They go so hard for us. Even people that I wasn't even that cool with,
Right.
while I was there, simply because of the fact that like, oh, she a rattler, she went to FAMU. Oh yeah, bet. Like, let's make sure everybody knows. Let's like blow this up. It's just automatic. It is just in us, to support each other in that way. So yeah, I'm telling you, it's nothing like that HBCU experience. Nothing like it.
Yeah. So I'm having Micah, our teammate, on
Yes.
a couple of days, and he's a HBCU grad. He went to Prairie View. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna ask that question because you just made me want to go, and I didn't get the chance to. So a little jealous right now. I ain't
That's
gonna
all
lie.
right.
I'm a little jealous right now. So, but all right. So the next thing I want to talk about is something that you already shared with me, I believe, and I really wanted other people to hear this because I think it shows just how powerful of a woman you are, but just how powerful women are in general as well. And I think that you might not realize this, but I see this. I see you mentoring or being an example to a lot of young women, Black women specifically, for what you've done. Like that's what I see when I hear you talk, when I see what you went through, the whole nine. Like you are an example that a lot of people need to hear your story and also see what you're doing. Like it's a big deal. So with the business, Ryt Your Truth Skincare, or RYT Skincare, um, your journey to starting that, like you said, it was during the pandemic. So I know you had to be nervous because it's like at this point, people barely got jobs to have money to be able to buy those things, but you still pushed through, you still launched it. And I just wanted you to discuss, the story behind it, what is
Mm-hmm.
your truth, and
Yeah.
then kind of what's the future? What do you see moving forward with the skincare line?
Okay. Yeah. So, boy, first of all, let me just say, like, God is amazing. We know that. I remember when I first was like, okay, I want to start a skincare line. My thought, or what I had been learning at the time, was like, if you're going to create a brand, you need to have a story to go behind it. Like, people want to be able to connect to you, not just the product, but people follow people, and you got to be relatable and this, that, and the other. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't have no like rags to riches type story. I don't have, like some sob story or anything. Like, I don't know how people would really, want to gravitate towards me. I don't
Right.
know, right? Well, just be careful, the things that you put out there, because God eventually gave me a story. Okay.
Right.
And
Right.
he made me go through some things to give me this story.
Right. Right.
um, so yes, I knew that I wanted to start a skincare line. Being a pharmacist, I also want to be able to help people just take overall like better care of themselves. Typically what we see on the outside is indicative of what's happening or how well you're taking care of yourself from within. So I knew I wanted it to be like wellness based. But again, I didn't really have like much of a story that people could connect to at the time when I first thought of all this. So I knew that again, the products were going to be great, whatever. That's why I went to aesthetic school, and I wanted to get as much education as possible. But I didn't really know, again, the brand story. Well, when we were ready to start our family, and that's when I finally took a break from the stage, um, had no idea we were going to be hit with infertility. No idea. The last thing that we thought either of us would have to experience, being that we've always been like healthy and athletic and disciplined, and we did everything the right way, the way they would say, just we've been straight and narrow, and it's worked out well for us. So to hit this bump in the road was the last thing we ever expected. So because of that, that then kind of pulled me into my own bout of depression, something I had never experienced before. Not like actual clinical depression to where people are saying I need to be on medication.
Right.
I had never experienced that before. So I'm just like, wow, life is taking an interesting turn at this point. So, I totally like let go of the skincare stuff. Like during that time, I couldn't focus, I was gaining weight, I was eating trash, like, just typical, like she's really depressed.
Right.
This is happening. So, I'll never forget, in order for me to finally come out of the depression, I eventually I learned I had to start talking about it, right? I didn't want to take medication for it just because as a pharmacist, like, doctors, people in the medical profession, we are the worst patients ever, right? So
Right.
I'm like, nah, I ain't taking that. Like, no, I'll be all right.
Right.
But it got to a point where like my faith really had to kick in, and just like, I'm very spiritually based or whatever. And so eventually I started talking about it to like friends and a few family members. And every time I would have the conversation, it made me realize like, okay, wow, I actually do feel a little bit better about this now that I'm like putting it out there. And then when it got to the point where people will respond to my story with, oh yeah, me and my husband went through that too. And I'm just like, whoa, like I would have never known. And they're saying the same thing. Yeah, I didn't really talk about it. I had one friend that struggled for 6 years. She had like 4 or 5 miscarriages. And what I'm seeing from the outside is her and her amazing husband, and they're just couple goals and they're doing their thing. We're seeing these things from the outside. We're seeing the highlight reels on Instagram or whatever, right?
Right.
And we're not thinking twice about it. Even when I finally put it out there, I had one friend call me up and was like, I'm gonna be honest, I never even thought to like hit you up or ask how you're doing, because I see your Instagram and you and Cam are just killing it. And I'm like, well, one, that's actually not okay. Like you should know better because we're friends, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
why would
Right.
you just, but at the same time, like I didn't blame her because I put it out there in that manner.
Hmm.
That's what I wanted people to see. I didn't want them to see the fact that I was so sad and I was so broken by this. I didn't want that. So like I said, we are so quick to feel it necessary to display this perfect picture of just positivity and strength, and we're killing it and whatever, instead of like just recognizing that like all of us, like me, you, anyone else around us, we're all going through this human experience, right? Hardships, hurdles in life, all of that is part of it. This is how we grow and evolve. It's necessary, right? So why do we feel it necessary to always like cover these things up? Okay, so now I'm starting to think, right? These things are like hitting me, God is telling me like, Brittney, these products need to be more than just, helping people get pretty skin. Like, let's encourage people to be real about who they are, what they look like, what they're going through, and recognize that your story is enough, right? It is powerful. It has purpose in it, and it needs to be like shown. It like we need it, right? Because what I'll say too is that the conversations that I was having when I would finally open up and other people are then willing to share their stories, it's like this healing exchange for the both of us. And I'm feeling better, they're feeling better, and now there's this connection that we have that we would have never had before. And it turned into this huge like network of support that was just like unbelievable. And then it also helped me to realize I never had to go through this by myself. I never had to cover this up. I never had to like pretend like everything was perfectly fine. It was actually okay that it wasn't okay, it was so eye-opening for me, right? And so this is when God was helping me to understand like, hey, this platform needs to be bigger than pretty skin. We want to encourage folks to remove those physical masks, i.e. like makeup and filters. And then also the emotional masks, right? Where we're just smiling behind everything and acting like everything's perfectly okay. It doesn't have to be okay. Sometimes you need to go through these things in order to grow. And to be honest, had I not gone through my journey with infertility, my journey with depression, like there's no way I'd be able to like speak to you with such conviction and like be able to pour out, in this way to help the next person. Because what I realize now is that my journey and the hardships of that journey it wasn't just about me.
Right.
It's about the people that I can reach and that I can impact, right? And then encourage them to do the same. Like, again, we all serve such beautiful purpose in this way to where we can help other people. So reveal your truth is what it is. It's the Ryt Skincare, reveal your truth. Again, initially it was about like, hey, let's walk out of the house and feel good with no makeup on. Let's post up a selfie without the filter. That's what it was initially about. And that's still great, right? Like I still want people to feel that way.
Right.
However, like, let's also encourage folks to share their stories, okay? Reveal your truth. Recognize the power that you hold within your own story, within your truth, right? Because you just never know how it can impact the next person to really push through whatever they're going through. Like, with me, the infertility, the depression and everything, when they say like, take these things one day at a time, like it is true. Having those conversations would help me get through that one day, and then the next day I wake up and I'm like, all right, let's see how I feel. Let's see, how it goes. And sure enough, I would remember something that someone told me the day before. And I'm like, all right, you know what? That makes sense. Let's just keep going. Let's keep going. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it got so much deeper, and like when I started off saying this, like, all right, gotta give you a story. If you really want to be relatable, he'll give you a story. And but with that, you have to recognize that he's giving you the story for a reason so that you can use it and help the next person. Okay. None of what we go through is only just about us. I don't believe so.
Right.
I think everything we go through is bigger than us. And if we seek like God's perspective on whatever it is that we're going through, like you'll realize there's beauty, there's power, there's inspiration in all of it, because again, we're all going through this human experience of life, period. So we just got to be there for one another and not feel so compelled to like always show perfection. It doesn't exist. I mean, it doesn't exist for anybody. It's not real. So reveal your truth. That's what it's all about. Revealing your truth, showing, who you are, what you're made of, and recognizing, you possess everything you need in order to truly move forward and excel in life.
That's awesome. So there is beauty in the struggle. Like, and I tell people that a lot.
Yeah.
That's what going through a process is. I found I went through, obviously not a similar situation, but I have went through some depression, especially last year. in trying to find myself and
Mm-hmm.
and restoring Julian and his confidence in who he was. And one of the things that I found, especially for Black men, we do not know how to communicate our emotions. And it's this wall that
Yeah.
people want to put up, like you said, where you're told that you're not masculine if you're talking about these things, or and it's something that I feel now I'm going to talk about. I went to counseling. I
Yep.
went and saw a counselor,
Yes.
speaking to my pastor every,
Yep.
once a week to go through these things and figure out that I'm 31 years old and still upset about the relationship I have with my father. Like, you know what I mean? That's the stuff I'm
Yes.
dealing with,
Yes.
that we're just told to just throw that under the rug and be a man. You know what I mean? So, and
Yep.
once I did start sharing that story, I did get some messages from people, like you said, who had been through that, or thank you for sharing that, man. I needed to read that. And it's like, wow, it could take,
Yep.
like you said, one person sharing or revealing their truth could
Yes.
really help somebody down the road and you not even understand it. So
Exactly.
when you spoke about that and when you told us about it, obviously at the seminar, I'm like, that's so powerful, and I think it's gonna blow up. And the skincare
Oh,
products are probably fire too. I'm gonna figure that out
yeah.
when I buy them. But we're revealing
Yeah.
our truth. The skincare products are fire, y'all. Don't don't
Yes.
worry.
Yes, they are. It's so funny because Cameron, he even tells me like, you get so passionate when it's time to talk about this business, and you get all into like the message behind it, and you forget to tell people like what the products are actually about.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what
Because
is the product?
so yeah, the product. So I went the whole natural, vegan, organic route. I wanted to, again, like encourage health, right? Not to say that other products on the market are just bad for your health. However, I do feel like, this needs to be a collective effort, right? So we're going to be smart about what we're putting on our skin or on our body, as well as what we're putting within our body, right? So me being, in this fitness world, and I'm then made it to Olympian now, like, and we're always encouraging like healthier lifestyles and all that. I wanted it to also, kind of collab with the actual products as well, for it to all make sense within this brand of like wellness, right? So I went this route, and to be honest, like, it's just so much better. It's so much better. I love skincare products. I've always been like a product junkie my whole life or whatever. So I love trying new things, but typically what would happen, like your skin would have to go through so much, I call it drama, in order to get the results, when you're dealing with like chemicals and like just regular products, right? Your skin is still trying to figure out like what to do with these ingredients. Whereas with the natural and organic ones, this is like, it's coming from the earth, like it's natural, right? Like there's not much that the skin has to adjust to in order for it to like do what these ingredients want it to do. That's what I've been experiencing, as well as the reviews that I've been getting from people. They're just like, it's crazy how the glow just comes so naturally, and I feel like it's something that almost is coming from within. It's not temporary. It's like, no, like this is what my skin always wanted to feel, or to how it wanted to respond. So the natural route for me is just, there is no other route at this point, now that I've really understood what these ingredients can do, especially understanding where they're coming from, and the fact that, nothing is manipulated. There's no manipulation to the skin, right? Like it's just able to finally refresh itself, revive itself, because it's been being feeded the nutrients that it always needed.
Right. And it's interesting you say that, because I started my lock journey, a year and a half ago, I
Hmm.
think. And I didn't understand the importance of the natural products. But even for like black hair, you need a specific natural black hair product, because some of these chemicals can cause your hair to start breaking.
Yep.
It was making, I know the stuff that I was using before I went to my lock, I call her my loctician. Before I
Hmm.
went to her, she was like, yeah, you can't use that. Like, don't use this. You
Yeah,
need to
man.
go get this. And she makes her own conditioners, and it's like dry conditioner, stuff like that, that has those products in it. And my hair's done way better. So I
Way
can
better.
imagine what that can do for my skin, because I'm not going to mention the name. I recently just used one
Hmm.
that I feel like it almost burned my face.
Yep. Yep.
I felt it and I'm like, maybe that's just me. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
I looked the other day and there's like a black mark here that looks like a burn.
Hmm.
I can't use that anymore. Like, I think like that's the end of that. but I
Yeah.
never paid attention to the importance of skincare because I'm a guy. Like I don't really think about that. But now,
Yeah.
when
Yep.
you think about my hair, like I'm like, okay, I need to add that to here and everywhere else. So
Yeah, it makes a difference. And I mean, people don't acknowledge the fact that your skin is an organ. It's the largest organ on your body. And so the same way, especially as folks that are in, fitness and just the healthcare industry, it's like, I'm not going to feed, I'm not going to feed my body anything that would cause cholesterol or whatever. Like you're so caught up in making sure you're taking care of things from within. You're trying to, at least you're conscious of it, I would say. But then you don't realize, like, no, the same way you're taking care of your heart and your liver and all of these things within your body, like your skin is an organ just like those things, right? And so we need to be conscious of what we're feeding our skin as well, and just being respectful of that, the same way that you would respect your heart and lungs and anything else.
all right. So, in quick question, because I know you said you went to school for this. You obviously have the education behind it. When you're talking about like fitness and those things, as far as skincare goes, is what we eat, does that play a part in how our skin looks
Yeah.
and that organ as well? You know, with that
Yes.
being the biggest organ.
Yes. 100%. 100%. So again, if you know that things like alcohol will affect your liver,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's an organ, and that's something that you're choosing to feed yourself or put into your body. Um, you also know that, if you were to drink a little bit more water, the kidneys are going to be a little bit healthier, right? All of this plays a part, right? So if the organs from within can function properly because you're doing your part by feeding it the things that it needs in order to function properly, if those things can work properly from within, then what you're going to see on the outside is also just this natural glow of your skin being treated properly and functioning properly as well. So yeah, 100%. What we eat, like the sugars and stuff, oh man, it's like the worst for skin, and I get it because I mean, who doesn't want to eat a little bit of sugar? I
Yeah,
promise you. Ooh, that is one of my vices for sure. But
same here.
I also know that if I start randomly breaking out, I can pretty like 99% at the time I can look back at what I ate over the past 2-3 days and realize like, yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
did this to myself.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So, right. Reveal your truth. Skincare. What's your future goals for the business? Like, are we looking to get these in Targets and Walmarts and just blow it up? Like, do you have that? Do you have like a goal for what you want to do with it?
So I'm gonna be honest. I am very content with where it's at because of the fact that with it being smaller right now, I'm able to really connect with my consumers. Um, People are able to, because again, the whole reveal your truth thing, like they want to try the products, and then when they do, they realize how great they are, which is great. But then they also hear my story and they just kind of want to like reach out and ask questions, and I actually have the time or the wherewithal to actually do that, right, to connect with people. And so that's what I'm loving the absolute most about my business right now, is just the connection that I'm able to have with people that I would have not have ever met before. But as far as the future, so for me, I'm definitely open to wherever this can go. And yes, there's like a game plan or a business plan in place to help us to grow. But ultimately, like, I don't really put that much thought into it just yet, or that, because to me, that's pressure. That's a little bit of pressure for me to like figure out what the end goal, because really there's no finish line for this, right?
Right.
Like, this is what I'm doing now. This is the vision that God has given me that I'm now responsible for. And I didn't know he was going to turn it into this. I didn't know he was going to give me the story for the message behind it. I didn't know any of this was going to turn into what it is now, right? So at this point, like I said, yes, there are practices in place for like the business plan, and so that we can talk to investors to scale and actually be able to afford more. But I'm not really worried about like where it needs to go, because this entire journey, like, God just slowly gives me more and more pieces of the puzzle. I
Right.
don't have all the pieces yet. I don't have all the answers, and I've gotten to the point where I don't need to know the details of how things are going to work out. I just kind of trust that it will. And so it's that same mindset of the business overall. We'll see where it goes, because ultimately this is God's doing. So wherever he wants it to go is exactly where it's going to go. I just have to make sure I do my part to stay disciplined, to do the work, and to just take good care of it and nurture it.
Right, right. I see Jeremiah 29:11 a lot, which is just God's purpose, God's plan. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's my life as well.
Yep.
And I would even say, again, having you on here and just having this is another. I never saw myself doing this, even though I had a bunch of people be like, "Man, you should start a podcast, talk." I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. My
Right.
mom, nope, you're wrong, mom. Like, nope, I want to do it. And finally, it was just like something hit me. All right, let's try it. I felt like it was God because I did need something that was mine. That I felt like I'm a guy who likes to create things, and I was just kind of getting in this cycle of just wake up, work. It was nothing that I was doing I was passionate about. And I did this one time by myself on a mic, and it was just like there was a fire. And like from that point, it turned into got to get it on Spotify. Like I've done all this like in like a week or two, and it was just because I was just driven. Like I remember. So the first person anytime this happens, I text Ryan because he's the one who's told me to do this a year and a half ago. And so like he was just like, he said, "Man, I'm proud of you. You're really doing it." And I was like, I don't know why I needed to hear that, but once I heard that, I'm like, what else can I do? That so I get it. Like you're 100% right. When God orders your steps, if you step in that path and you keep walking,
who knows where he'll take you?
You don't know where you'll take you. You really don't. But it's easy to keep walking.
Yes. Exactly, because he's carrying you at this point. There's no doubt that like even me sitting here talking to you right now is all part of his plan.
Right.
Like I don't know who's going to listen to this, but I do feel like God was in the midst of this conversation, and they will be able to hear him through us talking. Through us actually like stepping out on faith and doing these things, actually just doing it to see where it takes us. I'm so grateful for the platform, for the vision, the fact that God even trusted me enough to give me this vision. That's something that I take a lot of pride in, which is why like I can't really worry about where it's going. I just know I have to keep going. Right. All I got to do is just keep going, and he's going to carry me to where he wants it to go.
Right. I like that. So to close it out, how can people access Reveal Your Truth, the products, get to them? All that.
So we're on all the socials, and then we have the website. It's at the Ryt Skincare. So RYT. It's Reveal Your Truth, but yes, RYT. So the rytskincare.com is the website, and then the handles on socials is just at the Ryt Skincare.
So what I'll do is I'll link all this in the description. For those who are watching on YouTube, click down, all the links in the description for social media and the website. If you're listening, listen to what she just said, and I'll also put that in the description of the podcast on Spotify, so you guys can just highlight that, copy and paste it into your Safari link or wherever you're going to be at.
Perfect.
Is there anything else you got? Anything else you want to say to close it out?
Other than the fact that I'm like super proud of you too. Like I know Ryan gave you the validation, but like real talk, because I don't think we ever really got a chance to meet. Like I know you and Cam and the guys, y'all had like y'all sneakerhead chat or whatever, and so I would get a little snippet to understand, different perspectives of everybody in that chat. But like I feel like from a distance, I've been able to witness your growth over these last few years, and I'm like hella proud of you, man. Like just keep going, and like you said, you got God guiding you at this point, so like failure is literally not an option. It's not going to happen for you at all, so just keep trusting the man and doing your thing. I'm hella proud.
I appreciate it. Like I said, I have, again, like you said, it's from a distance, but again, I understand the surface level stuff, but I don't care. You and Cam are goals. I think you are, and I've talked to Cam a lot, so I know how Cam is. I know what Cam does, and he's a great man himself. But for you, just what you've done so far, there's a lot of Black girls that are going to be able to see you down the line, and you'll be an example for them of what they can accomplish. And I appreciate that, especially for a child of a single mother. So I saw what she went through and all those things, so I understand what it is to have a woman hero, because she is one for me. And like I said, what you've done, you're a doctor, you're a pro in our sport, you hit the highest level of being a pro in our sport, started your own business. Like there's so much that I believe you have to offer that a lot of people are going to hear, listen, and appreciate. So just keep doing what you're doing. We are watching and we are proud, even though we ain't HBCU.
That's all right. We all make mistakes in life. It's okay.
All right. So that's it for today. Thank you for all those who are watching, for all those who are listening. I appreciate you. I hope that you really enjoy what you're hearing. Again, all the links will be there so you guys can, go get 30 of everything from Miss Dayne's business. Right, the Ryt Skincare. All right. Y'all have a great one. Thank you.